There is this passage in Mark 9 where Christ is with the disciples, and he was teaching, and he talks about, that he must die and be raised in 3 days, and no one says anything to him because they're afraid. And then they go to Capernaum, and it's just the disciples and Jesus. And Capernaum is kind of where Jesus is based in Galilee. And I imagine them kind of in the house there, and they say, they were walking through Galilee, and then they walk into the house, and Jesus says, what were you guys talking about? And they're embarrassed because they were talking about who's the greatest in the kingdom. Probably heard this story. And then there's this moment. It's almost like a pause in the Gospel of Mark, that he knows that they were talking about this, and it says he sat down. Like any good rabbi then who would sit down and teach, he sits down and he kind of calls them in there and he goes, whoever is going to be first has to be last. And the last will be first. And you get that whole passage where he kind of does this sort of reversal thing that's amazing. On some level, just telling the disciples, this is not about being first. Being a Christian, being a follower of Jesus is not about getting anything. It's literally about serving others. It's literally about giving your life for other people. As painful as that can be, as joyful as that can be. And I just love these, sometimes you get, and Mark's gospel is really, really quick. It's immediately this, immediately that. And yet you get these little pauses where they were talking about who's going to be the greatest, which I think all of us in some way in our lives, like metaphorically or wherever we are in our jobs or in who we want to be or who we want our children to be, we think about being the greatest, the best, better. And on some level, Jesus saying the first will be last and the last will be first, is Jesus saying, your job is not to be first. Your job is to make others first. It's to help others do better. Always serve others. And that's a difficult message because so much of my life, I know, is I want to be awesome at things. And yet, Jesus and the call of Christ on our lives is to give all that up and to serve. And I wonder if Christ doesn't come to us now, sit down in some way deep in our hearts and in our souls, sit down and take a deep breath when we are just at our most ambitious and say, Mark, that's not what this is about. You're going to have to put others before yourself. Because that's what the gospel is. And it's not a message to make us feel bad, but a message of just kind of, it's okay. That's why I think it's in this intimate moment in Capernaum with just his disciples, where he sits down and he says, it's not about being first. And that's okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.